When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube and welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be talking about what if Arya didn't actually go to Braavos? What if she went north and went to maybe Eastwatch and then would have gone to Castle Black? What would have changed? What would have gone differently? And how would Arya's story have been affected? But before we get into the video, if you guys like to like, subscribe, and comment, please do. It helps the channel reach other people that might like this content like you. And yeah, let's get into the video. So starting off this kind of what if, I think the idea of Arya making it to Eastwatch and then to Castle Black is very likely. I think she could have either A, trying to take a ship all the way up to Eastwatch, or she could have just kind of looked to maybe go up that way. I'm not sure how that would have worked. Actually, now thinking about it, I think the only way she would have gotten to Eastwatch and to continue on with this theory of the what if, I think she would have had to have found a ship and maybe taken it to White Harbor or Eastwatch. And with that, if she does end up at Castle Black, which again I think is likely, I think it's the most likely option that affects the story in any way besides like her just dying in the Riverlands or something like that. I think with Jon being a Lord Commander and stuff like that, and Stannis, this is the key part, Stannis still being at the wall at this point when she would probably get there, I think Arya would definitely be used by Stannis. I think Arya would definitely be down for this because Arya would want vengeance on the Bolton family, and Stannis was willing to give her that. So I think Arya definitely would have gone along with kind of being this heir, the real Arya Stark, because at this point we have to remember that the Bolton and Lannisters were trying to say that Jane Poole was actually Arya Stark, and they married her to Ramsay Bolton, not like the show, which what they did with Sansa. But Arya would come in here and it would kind of prove, you'd have actual proof that the Boltons were lying, even though most people already knew that that wasn't Arya Stark. Most people just kind of went along with it because they had to out of fear or the phrase having hostages or something like that. So looking at that, I think Arya would have actually helped sway maybe a few houses to Stannis' cause because maybe a rightful Stark was with Stannis. Now, I think the Manderleys at this point, I think openly would have actually supported Stannis just based upon the fact that Arya Stark is already with Stannis. Them getting Rickon, yes, I think he would still try to do, but at the same time, you already have Arya. You already have a Stark. So for me, I think the Manderleys instantly go to Stannis. I think we could even see some of the more minor houses that were more loyal to the Starks going to Stannis' cause. And also just kind of calling out Roose and Ramsay's bullshit. So I think instantly you have a bigger power shift than we see in the actual story. I think Stannis has a lot more power at this point. Along with the clans, which Stannis does end up getting anyway. Seeing Arya Stark, the daughter of Ned, I think definitely they would have come to his cause again. And for me, this turns the war. I think Roose and Ramsay definitely now are, definitely not at an advantage. I think they have a lot of disadvantages at this point now. I think you have a lot of the North rising up against them. And as soon as they see that Stannis has a lot more forces, I think you would just see a lot of dissent in Roose's ranks. But looking at that, I think Stannis would end up winning. Now, I think he would do this in a lot faster pace, just based upon how many soldiers he would have, the speed and all that. I think that Stannis, with having Arya, would end up taking Winterfell. Now, what's interesting in this is going to be when Davos, because I think that whole situation would have played out about the same, finds Rickon and brings Rickon back. Rickon then becomes your kind of rightful ruler type scenario. But at this point, I think Rickon, A, is too young. I think he's going to be too wild to really do that. Jon, who I think is going to be resurrected, because again, I think all of Jon's stuff plays out the same. And here's something that's even more interesting, is that would Jon have actually gone south Arya? Would Jon, now that Arya is there, considered actually going south? I think it's very possible that that could have ended up happening, but let's just say for this situation, Jon stays there and then the normal kind of stuff plays out, right? With this being said, I think that Jon gets resurrected, right? Through Ghost. This is my own theory, but I think it's what most people believe is probably going to happen. I think Jon then kind of gets the whole will thing. I've talked about Robb Stark's will. If you wanted to see that, I had that video was uploaded, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago at this point, talking about what the impact of that's going to be. But I think more or less that Howland Reed, accompanied with Mage Mormont and Galbert Glover, are going to come, you know, up north and kind of tell Jon that he is a legitimate ruler. I think Arya would back this. I think really Rickon wouldn't really have a choice, because at this point I just think the Northern Lords would see he's not really ready. So I think at the very least, Jon would be the person kind of set to rule until Rickon comes of age. And with that being said, I think you have a kind of unified North quicker than what we would see in the normal story. But I think the problem, and then the what if doesn't really change a lot, in my opinion. I think it just quickens how quickly Stannis would win the battle for Winterfell. I think he's going to win it in the normal story, but I just think it's going to be a lot slower and there's going to be a lot more casualties. But in this situation, I still don't think the North is really going to be unified enough and prepared enough for the threat of the others, right? So I think when you look at it like that, I think it almost plays out kind of how the normal story is going to play out. However you think that is at this point, I think it's going to play out about the same, except for a key few differences in what it's kind of really speculation and predictions, right? So for me, I think Arya in the normal books, right, she's going to be someone that maybe isn't directly working with the Faceless Men because she's going to want to leave, right? And we've seen that. So I think what's going to end up happening is that Arya is kind of allowed to leave. That the Faceless Men say, yeah, you can go to Westeros, but you have to carry out some sort of mission or something like that. In either that's them telling her as soon as she leaves, or they get into contact with her later in the books and kind of creates this conflict of, does Arya want to actually kill this person? Now, when Arya comes over, I think she is going to be someone that meets Lady Stoneheart. I don't think Sansa's going to be the one that meets her. I think Arya will meet her, and I think she's going to end up killing her mother, giving her kind of a mother's mercy type thing. We've seen a lot of evidence that this could possibly be what happens in the future. And I think she's going to change as a character in result of seeing her mother like that. I think by the time she meets up with Jon and Sansa and all of them, and they get to have this reunion of the Starks, I think she's going to be very different in kind of her approach to life and stuff. So I think if you look at that, and Arya never really has that situation, does Lady Stoneheart continue on, right? Is there someone to kill Lady Stoneheart? I don't know. Because I think the way Lady Stoneheart's going to die is not because she's losing a battle or she's losing, like, whatever. I think it's going to be because Arya just kind of ends it, gets kind of close to her, and just kind of ends it. So for me, Lady Stoneheart could very much still be a problem in the Riverlands and creating a lot of chaos and stuff like that. And Arya, I think, is still going to be a very vengeful character because she hasn't gotten that lesson of vengeance yet. So when you look at it from that regard, I think a few things change, but the more I keep going on with this, the more there's a lot of speculation. So I'm going to leave this video kind of like this. However you think Winds of Winter and Dream of Spring are going to continue, it's probably still going to happen. There's just very minor things that change, like I said, with Lady Stoneheart and all that stuff. But I think for the most part, I don't think a lot's going to change. Now, if Arya is the person to maybe murder characters in the future, that would change, of course, but we just don't know that. And I don't want to go into speculating about the books that we haven't even gotten yet into a what if. So this is kind of where I'm going to leave this what if, but let me know what you guys think. What do you think would change if Arya was in the North? I just think you would see Stannis' victory a lot quicker and the North kind of being unified much quicker. But yeah, that is where I'm going to end this video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.
If you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.